Welcome back. In this tutorial, we're going to learn how to prep your session for the final mixdown. The final mixdown is when we combine all our tracks into some standard playback format, usually 2 tracks for stereo format or 6 tracks for surround sound. Let's say that you've already adjusted the volume, panning, EQ, etc. of each track and you're happy with the blend. If you haven't already, as part of your audio monitoring of your work, you'll need to listen to the output on the master fader track and watch for clipping. Make sure all the tracks you need to hear are audible and the tracks you need muted are muted. Make sure the plugins you need are active and the tracks with automation are set to auto-read. Now you need to apply a dithering plugin to the last insert on your master fader track if, let's say, you've recorded your session in 24 bits and need to export it to a CD, which is in 16-bit depth. Dithering helps you preserve the quality of your work. For a more detailed explanation, see my previous tutorial on dithering earlier in this course. If you plan on taking your work to a professional mastering house, be sure to export it in 24-bit format. Your mastering professional will do the dithering for you, as well as any volume maximizing and normalizing. For this reason, it's a good idea to make sure your mix isn't too hot. You want to leave a little bit of headroom so you can volume maximize during mastering. Here you see the dithering plugin that comes with Cubase. I choose the bit depth that I'd like to export to. Notice that I've inserted it as the last insert on my master output fader. If you do come back to your master file to make any additional edits, make sure you bypass this plugin while you make the changes. Then activate the plugin right before you need to actually do the dithering. Let's close this and close the mixer as well so we've got a little more space here. At this point, you're ready to select the timeline that you want to export. In Cubase, you just drag the left and right markers and position them where you want the final export to begin and end. Make the selection long enough to accommodate the delays and reverb that might need a little more time to trail out. If you happen to forget to select the range, you're either going to bounce nothing if both markers are set to 0, or you're going to bounce the entire length of your project. Now you're ready to do what's called in Pro Tools bounce to disk, or in Cubase, what's called the audio mixdown. Your bounced file will contain any audible tracks, all read-enabled automation, and all active plugins. Make sure you've got the right output selected or you won't hear anything when you play your bounced file. Select the bus or output pair to use for the bounced mix. Now let's specify the file format. We can select from a number of different file types. To hear in a CD player, you need a WAV file. AIF is a Macintosh native file, but Mac supports WAVs also. You can also choose audio-only QuickTime files and Windows Media files. Your software might have some different options here depending on which version you've used and which extra plugins you've got installed, like the MP3 export or DigiTranslator option in Pro Tools. So let's choose a WAV file as our format to export. Now let's take a look at the audio engine output. What we want for an audio CD is stereo interleaved. For surround mixing, you'll need to deliver in a multi-channel format. If you're rendering for CD, you need to reduce your sample rate to 44.1 kHz if it's higher, and the bit depth needs to be 16-bit if it's higher. Pro Tools bounces files in real time so that external hardware sends and returns and inserts can be used. Cubase doesn't have to bounce in real time, but it can if you want it to. Now listen to the file in your computer's media player outside of your music software to make sure it's what you want and it's complete before you burn it to CD. This concludes our tutorial on the final mixdown.